Welcome to episode 56 of the Brew Crew Scoop. Brewers won 13 of 17 and 9 of 10, coming off an 8-game winning streak that was broken up yesterday, Tuesday, against the Reds, but they got back on a winning note before the day off. And they sit at 34 and 29. Vast difference in a lot of the episodes up until this point.
Yeah, and even yesterday was a close one. We were leading, gave up the lead, were robbed on a game tire. So yeah, we're playing some good ball, and things are finally mostly starting to go to plan.
Since last episode, they swept the Phillies in Philly, pretty impressive, and hung a really bad loss on one of the best pitchers in baseball so far this year, Jesus Luzardo. Luzardo only ended up going three and a third, and he had 12 earned runs. So, um,
Yeah, Phil's kind of effed him on that one, if you ask me. I feel like if a guy's been that good all year and he clearly doesn't have it, you don't keep sending him out there, but
yeah,
whatever.
not my problem.
hmm
And then obviously, like I mentioned, they won game one in Cincy, and then last night Jake Bauers almost tied the game. I couldn't tell for sure that it was going out, but
Looked
it
like
was
it was gonna
more
be a
likely than
top
yeah.
of fence bouncer kind of ball.
Yep. But TJ Friedel saved the day for the Reds, and I mean that would only tied the game in the top of the ninth. So, no saying that they definitely won that game, but kind of a bummer. But you can't get too upset when there's been so many wins lately, and this team was like fighting to be 500 for so long, and like I said, now 5 games over 500. Um, Unfortunately, if we want to look at the standings right away, still 5.5 back of the Cubs and a half game back of the Cardinals. So Cubs are 16 over 500. Um, we knew they'd be good, but they've been honestly better than I thought. So,
Yeah, it's a long season.
looking at the rest of the National League, specifically the wild card, but the Mets and Phillies are half game apart at the top of the East. The Dodgers and Padres are a game apart at the top of the West. But looking at the wild card for the Brewers' sake, they're a half game out, tied with San Francisco, half game behind the Cardinals. Those other two teams I mentioned in second place in the West and East are holding the wild card spots along with the Cards. But then in the American League, Yankees have a big lead, Tigers have a big lead, and then Houston and Seattle seem to be going back and forth in the West. Wild card wise, there's about 6 teams within a game and 2 games of each other. So Twins, Guards, Mariners, Royals, Rays, Blue Jays. Um, yeah, I don't know. Brewers, I don't know how I feel about the Cardinals. Um,
I'm not as worried about them. I
yeah,
think if that's what we're worried about, we're not going anywhere, right? If that's our most concern. But yeah, they've definitely surprised me. It's not like they've been insane, but they've definitely been better than I thought. They have some solid guys on that roster, but I mean, honestly though, for the Brewers, I'd rather have them be about where they are because then hopefully they're not selling guys that are kind of useless to them in the future for prospects. Hopefully they hold and don't really turn into anything, and that way they're not retooling. It's not wouldn't be the worst thing.
yep, I agree. Who was your hot hitter of the week?
Oh, stop dropping on fire, Ricky Bobby. I'm on fire. He's so hot right now.
I just today I think I changed my mind and I'm gonna give it to it is hot hitter of the week, not hot walker or on
Yeah,
base. Yeah, so I'm giving it to Jackson Chourio. After today, yet I believe since we last talked, 2 homers, 2 doubles, and 2 singles for 8 RBI, and 8 runs, I think, as well as 3 steals. So that the walk percentage might have been 0, but he got it done this week. And then honorable mention, obviously, to one Christian Yelich. And some other guys got some work done. Daz with a homer, even Isaac Collins with a little pop. So a lot of bats are starting to warm up. There's still probably one specific bat that is not warming up, but the rest of the bats seem to be moving the right direction. So good to see.
who's that? Contreras?
Joey Ortiz.
Oh,
Contreras has been
I thought you meant
okay.
one of the big
No,
boys.
Contreras actually
Yeah,
had an okay week, like on base wise. He just didn't have any pop,
yeah.
but on base percentage, I think was like 350 for him since we last talked. But yeah, Ortiz is tough.
Yeah, I still don't know how I feel about Contreras' finger. Still makes me a little worried, but we'll see. Chourio in the last, so not including today, but the 13 games before that I had ready, an 852 OPS with 10 runs driven in. I just had bookmarked that date because I put out a tweet saying that this was around the time he got hot last year. So, going from a 672 OPS to before today a 712, I'd imagine it's going to be closer to 720 or 730 after today. So, good to see.
Yeah.
Who was your untouchable pitcher of the week?
You fellas are untouchable. Is that the thing? No one can get to you?
Again, with some recency bias, I'm gonna give it to DL Hall. He's pitched 6 innings since we last talked, three apiece as kind of an opener, but I mean, I'd say a 3 inning is a little more than the traditional opener, but obviously less than a starter. But over those six, he's given up 1 hit, 3 walks, 7 Ks, 0 earned. Can't ask any more out of someone than 0 earned runs. So I'm gonna give it to DL Hall. Obviously, his partner in crime has been Quinn Priester, both those. And I just want to say his ERA, I think, is down to it's like 3.8. Let me find it. It is
Yeah, I was gonna
three.
say Priester over his last 6 games, 32 and a third and a 251 ERA.
There you go. That's even better. But yeah, on the season, he's got a 3.88. And I just wanted to quick give a shout out to the let me find it. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought. The Red Sox, oh, that's the full team ERA, but they're 3.91. I know their starter team ERA is worse than that, but I pulled the wrong stat. Either way, team that's been struggling for starting pitching and just happens to be where we got Quinn Priester, and he seems to be outperforming their norm, which is kind of interesting. Kind of shows you what can change in a couple months. So I just wanted to give him a shout out, but a lot of the guys pitched well this week. Including Savali had a really nice start. So lots of guys moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and then someone not moving in the right direction in the pitcher realm for the Brewers with all the pitchers they have just to do the injury report. Unfortunately, Woodruff took 108 off the elbow and a comebacker in what was supposed to be his last rehab start, but it sounds like so far X-rays are negative and it may not set him back as long as we thought. So we'll see there, but that's obviously the biggest injury news. I don't know if you have anything to add to that or give anything else transaction wise. But
Yeah, I
that's
know
definitely
we
takes a cake.
we lost a lefty arm. I don't know if anyone claimed him yet in
Yeah, that's right.
Alexander. He left us with a little gift, giving up a couple runs in that Saturday game, but he honestly served his purpose. I think earlier in the year he started a couple, he served some bulk, so it is what it is. Yeah, and then I think actually in that Woodruff game was Jefferson Caro's first game back in AAA, and he's actually been hitting really well and playing well, I think, since he got back up, so that's good. Well, I guess he hasn't been up all that long, but his rehab stint, he did really well in. And then I don't know if you had any other transactions, but I figured as long as we were talking about Jefferson Caro, I would jump into something else if you're cool. If you're
Yeah, let's
cool.
hear it.
Yeah, so
Yep.
jumping into her on the farm.
If it hadn't been for those meddling kids.
If it hadn't been for you meddling kids. Ah, meddling kids. If it hadn't been for these meddling laddies.
Baseball America dropped their new top 100, and Brewers had 5 in the top 63 and 4 in the top 33. So Everson Caro, 63, held on to kind of some steam after missing like a year. So that alone is good to see. And then Cooper Pratt, who I was a really big fan of, even when I did that prospect profile a while ago, because I liked the cut of his jib, as the saying goes. But he's turned out to produce so far throughout his minor league career. He's at 33. Luis Pena rose all the way to 31. Mizorowski jumped to 21, and Jesus made Jesus Made is number 4. So the farm just keeps churning out some prospects. So I wanted to start there with around the farm. I don't know if you had anything on that specifically.
Yeah, it is crazy that Mate is just uh like a consensus top 10 prospect. He didn't come out of nowhere, but he kind of did. Really is just kind of weird how much he's reminding me of the Chourio. Like wasn't really a
Oh, so
huge
he can't
name.
get a walk either?
Yeah, he wasn't a huge name when we signed him, and then all of a sudden it's like everyone's just seeing him jump up the board and hitting the same ranks at the same time. But his counterpart, Luis Pena, who won Carolina League Player of the Week,
Yep.
seems to be following the exact same path as Chourio and Made, but not getting as much prospect love. But at the same time, has been I think he's got a couple of these Carolina League Player of the Weeks, and his offensive stats are arguably better than Made's.
Yeah, honestly,
Um,
this year I feel like he's almost gotten more of the love. Like that's the only name I
mhm.
see of more than Mate, but we just know Mate is there. So yeah, we those two are getting it done.
And we would be remiss to not mention that Christian Yelich was the NL Player of the Week. I know we mentioned it being hot. Did you say that already?
I didn't know.
Um, I don't know when the last time Yelly was NL Player of the Week. I know he's done it quite a few times before, but just really cool to see him continue to show some flashes of his MVP form. Even if he can't do it for a whole season, he can still go on these tears of hitting 5, 6 home runs in a week and driving in a ton of runs. And hopefully, it's a turning point for his back injury. Now that he's back from surgery, he's kind of settled back in. Who knows? Maybe he'll put it all together for the whole last 4 months of the season and beyond.
Yeah, I will say I was a little concerned with Yelly. He had no cycles this series against the Reds, and I
Yeah.
know he's already got three, so it would have been nice to get that to four, prove he's back with the triple. But whatever.
Um, and then Yelich, you had kind of asked, you think he's on the ballot as an outfielder or a DH, and turns out he's on the All-Star ballot as a DH, which all but guarantees that he will not start the All-Star game because Shohei Ohtani is the going to be the NLDH. Um,
It's also
but
fair because we don't
yeah,
really
oh,
play him in the
100%.
outfield anymore.
Yeah. But curious, 'cause I feel like we did last season, and I always have this discussion even before the podcast about how many All-Stars we think we have, and I gotta say that normally I feel like I'm fighting for like 3 or 4. I don't know how many I would argue for right now on the Brewers, and on top of that, kind of makes me think like, all right, this team showed flashes and we're 5 games over, but I feel like a lot of years when we end up having a legit contender, we seem to have like 3, 4, 5 All-Stars. Um, and then a lot of years when we're not contenders, it kind of correlates and we only have maybe 1 or 2 All-Stars. Curious to hear who you think right now would be All-Stars. Maybe who you think would be All-Star right now, and who still has a pretty strong case, even if they wouldn't be one on June 4th.
I mean, honestly, I don't really think anyone like has a close case. Um, Freddie had probably does, but he like I don't know. He's had a lot of pretty or good starts, but not great starts, and obviously there's a handful of very good pitchers in the NL, so that position's already tough. Um, I think we've been surprised with our production at first base with Reese, but again, talk about a stacked position. Freddie Freeman, Pete Alonso, not even mentioning Matt Olson and some of the other kind of newer guys at the position that are showing some shine. So that's a tough one. Bryce really cooled off second half of the season so far. So I guess just last month, but still has the glove. So I think he'll always have a case to be like a representative, just as long as he can hit a bit. But he's not really a flashy star. Ketel Marte's back. So again, tough position. I'm going to skip over shortstop respectfully. I'm going to skip over third base respectfully. Contreras will always have an argument, but he's definitely not lighting it up. And I know like Will Smith has been really good. I don't know how like a Drake Baldwin, some of the young guys with the Braves and stuff like that. But even like Gabriel Moreno, a lot of those guys are solid. So I don't think Contreras is shining above him so far either, even. And then the outfield, we have a lot of guys that I think a couple slow starters in Yelich and Chourio, and then Sal's playing great, but I don't know how we're gonna get Sal as a outfielder in the All-Star game when you compare him against some of the big flashy names. And then in the pen, Uribe is not going to have the saves. McGill's not going to have the saves and innings by then, probably. But you never know with Murph. They might be going every day until then. So there's a chance. But Up till now, neither of them are like top of leaderboards and actual saves and stuff like that. Uribe does get a lot of innings, so you never know. Maybe they pigeonhole him in too, but um, yeah, there's definitely not an like obvious case. But to counter, I think what you were saying with our good years we've had that, I think those were just kind of teams that were built a little bit different. And I think we've had a tough circumstance of our stars this year starting a little slow, which can hurt them. Plus, it's another thing we just know the NL's kind of stacked. So, but yeah,
Yeah, I
I don't
think
know if you have any.
no, I was just gonna say I honestly don't really see anyone on our offense. I mean, at the moment, none. But I think that Chourio and Yelich have a chance if they continue to trend the right way over the
Yeah,
next month. Yelich does have 41 41 runs batted in and 10 stolen bases.
and a name
So
too, name behind
right,
him.
exactly. And so if he can I don't know, raise his batting average, his OPS a little bit, and just continue on, even if you can include his cold start, if he continues on the same path of homers and he's got whatever 20 home runs and 50 plus
Yeah,
runs stolen in, driven in, and 15 bases stolen. I could see it, but yeah, as far as pitching wise, I could see Freddie getting in just because Freddie's kind of a name now. It's not like he's a perennial all-star, but the ERA is under 3, and but it's funny looking at their stats. Freddie and Chad Patrick have very similar numbers, which is crazy because you would think there's no chance Chad Patrick is an all-star. But their ERA is basically identical. One less start, same amount of appearances, 8 less innings, um, 17 less strikeouts. So there's a difference there. But Chad also has 11 less walks. Um, his whip looks slightly better. So kind of crazy. But then yeah, like you mentioned in the bullpen, I don't know that McGill has the saves. I could see him being the guy if they needed to just have their one all-star with the 2.21 ERA and 12 saves, but only 20 innings pitched. And then on top of that, just looking at our bullpen in general, Anderson, Uribe, and Mears have all been fantastic, but to get a middle reliever in, you
yeah.
have to just be like completely unhittable. So yeah, it'd be interesting. They'll obviously get one, but I'd be curious to see if they could somehow get two or three. Not that it really means anything, but it's just
Yeah, I still think last
cool.
year Bryce got kind of effed because he
He did.
had pretty good numbers in the glove. So I think always a chance he'll kind of get a later ad too, just because of the whatever plat or the glove at this point has league wide respect. So if he can have a pretty good um month, and maybe we can, I don't know. I guess today obviously he wasn't leading off just because of matchups, but if he can kind of be a lead off and accrue some more counting stats too, that'd be good to see. Nothing against Monasterio in the leadoff spot, but
Yeah, Terrain definitely did get snubbed last year, in my opinion. Versus Arias. Arias had the name and the batting average, but pretty much everything else is leading Terang's way. When it was all said and done, Terang kind of cooled off by the end of the year a little bit. Not that he was bad by any means, but so if you look back at his stats last year, you might think I'm crazy, but I do just recall at that time him having a much better case than Arias, and Arias got the nod. Um, yeah, that's all I really had on the ballot and the current news on the team. I don't know if you had any other.
I was gonna say for a
Um,
couple more prospect things. I think last week's series, Blake Burke, I saw you had a 630 on base, and a 650 slug for a 1.280 OPS in the series. And he had 8 batted balls over 95 miles an hour and 2 steals, which I've seen him run, and I can't imagine how he had 2 steals. But anyways, I saw that on the player development page. Saw some Miz news, but normally we leave the Miz glazing to you, so I'll skip over that. And then Brock Wilken was the Brewers player of the month with 9 homers, 20 walks, 4 doubles for a 938 OPS. So kind of exciting to hear out of some of the guys we've started hoping for. We'll find a way onto a roster sometime. Um, but yeah, just wanted to shout them out.
yeah, Mizorowski, he had a bad start. I think it was only like 3 innings and like 5 runs, but his ERA is still like a 2. So, unfortunately, every time Savali, Priester, Hall, all those guys has a good start, it just makes you question. I mean, at some point, if Woodruff ever comes back and no one else gets hurt, you got to think that a trade is just inevitable because you can't. I understand leaving Mizrachi down to this point, just with like the Super Two and getting him enough reps in Triple A and everything. But like a couple weeks from now, if he's still pitching the way he's pitching, it would be, I think, malpractice to leave him down there. And in the Brewers' defense, they don't really have anyone obvious right now to DFA or option or anything like that. So I guess we'll see what happens. And then also a guy like Logan Henderson, he may not have the stuff that Mizorowski has, but he's a guy who's proved it now 4 times in the major leagues, and at some point you think he'd get another chance. So
Yeah, yeah, we talked about it last time, but there's definitely a lot of candidates depending on what way we want to go to. Whether it's a guy that's younger with a little more control and you pick one that you are willing to get rid of and he might bring a little bit more even if he's not stud or some of those rental pieces, but for sure. I will say you can't get too mad about the Brewers keeping them down with at least a little rationale where there's a lot of teams that currently have guys that are being kept down with no rationale.
hmm
Like the Bubbas or their I mean Kegs was until whatever a day or two ago, but lots of that going around too.
yeah,
But the Super Two deadline should be right about now.
hmm
It's floats, but should be about when it is. So I'm sure we'll see a couple promotions in
I
the
was gonna
next
say
week.
I uh I don't know if we mentioned yet that Carlos F. Rodriguez in that same group of guys that we're talking about, like coming back up, he ended up leaving his next start in AAA after helping us through that rain delay with an injury. So hopefully that wasn't anything too serious. I don't know that I ever saw a follow up on that, but kind of
Yeah,
sucks. The guy who put it out there for the major league team, got his first career win, but sat through rain delay, went back out there, and um, kind of ties into the injury stuff and the rotation stuff. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, Yelich. I was just looking at his tying up some loose ends. His player of the week, 5 homer, 9 runs driven in. It's cool seeing like him getting a lot of the love again on like MLB Network, Intentional Talk, interviewing him and talking to him. And I saw Durbin was on there the other day. That was pretty cool. Hoskins got some love this week from homering a couple times against his old team. So it's cool just seeing the Brewers get some national love. I know MLB Network does a better job than like pretty
yeah.
much any of the other
I
like
know when Yelich is
ESPN.
doing well, I see a lot of Barstool stuff pop up. Not a Barstool listener myself, but I believe there's some repercussions if Yelly gets into a home run derby.
Yeah, he's got to win it. But that's what I was
Uh,
gonna say. I don't know that I'd see him on my All-Star ballot, but I would definitely put him in my home run derby ballot.
yeah. And then I think I actually saw Arian Foster's coming to the game on Monday for his first
Oh, nice.
in-person Brewers game. So, and
Very exciting.
he's set to tailgate, which I love, but it's a Monday game, so he's not getting the full experience.
Oh.
But
We were thinking about going for Woody start,
I
but
still kind of want to go. I was looking at the upcoming schedule, and it's daunting. Well, I think we'll have a really good view of what the Brewers are in the end of the month because we got Padres this weekend, then we have the Braves, then we have the Cardinals, then we have the Cubs, then we have the Twins before we get a breath of fresh air in the last week of the month with the Pirates and the Rockies. But knowing the historical Brewers will somehow play well against all these good teams and then
yeah,
lose 2 series to the Pirates and the Rocks. But that's all those teams I think are pretty much, well, at least in contention for a playoff spot right now. So we'll get a pretty good view of what this team maybe is made of. And I think by that point too is when the trade wheels really start getting kicked at July-ish point. So um yeah, should be interesting.
nice. I am pulling up. I'm actually gonna pick a beer of the week right now. So
I'll have a brewski, Charlie. Well, there's nothing like a cold one after a long day, huh? Oh, yeah. I've been known to drink a beer or two.
for my anniversary the other day, my wife let me know that she booked us dinner reservations in Bernie's Chalet, the old one. So I
Wow.
don't know if you know, but the old one's in Lakefront Brewery. And
Yeah, I was
apparently,
actually at Lakefront on Monday, so I was just looking at
for if you have $10,
it.
you can book a dinner for two in there. I'm like one surprised they actually do that, and two, if they did do it in there, you'd think they'd try to like make like I don't know $50, but they're
Yeah.
like, no, you can have. Um, so let me just
I
pick
didn't
up.
know you could eat in there. I'll share. There's a current collaboration, I think, with Hofbrau Brewing. So it's like a German beer, and it's called Brow Buddies. There, I like that one from Lakefront. So that'll be my Lakefront shout.
Nice. Yeah, mine I'll do the dive beer, the Milwaukee
Hmm.
Lager. I don't know if
Yep,
you've had it or
it's
it's
easy
just
drinking.
pretty basic, but it was good. Something to say for a nice basic beer that doesn't just taste like, you know,
Wait, did you go there on your anniversary?
bitter water. No, this Friday we're going.
Oh, I was gonna say. I was like, I was there on Monday.
Nope. Yeah. Yeah, Friday. Big day. I
Nice.
was- there it is.
It's busy on Friday there actually because they're fish fry. They get some
Well,
numbers in there, but you got
oh,
your
fish
reservation.
fry. I didn't
Yep.
even think of that. Yeah, I'm excited. Definitely gonna try the fish fry.
I think
Good
the
stuff.
cheese curd of the month is like cinnamon sugars. It's like churro or something.
Ooh.
Alyssa was intrigued. I was not.
Yeah, that doesn't sound that good to me, but having a cheese curd of the month sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. It's just vibes are good, and I'm glad that we kind of didn't panic the last few weeks that we talked and we told everyone not to panic. And there's a small part of me thinking like, oh boy, I might
Yeah, I
be
was
wrong.
about ready
But
actually.
but man, the tide has turned and they look really good. I'm still not convinced that this is a World Series winner team, but I think I'm convinced enough after last week that if we make the right moves at the deadline, we can get into the playoffs. And who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe we need to not play at home for the wild card round. Maybe that's what's screwing us.
yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna be happy while we're still rolling and see what happens. I will say today when I saw the lineup and Mona was leading off, which again, he's served a great purpose for this club. But I really would like to see Durbin tick up a little bit just in his on base tools. Doesn't need to bring pop, doesn't need to be anything fancy, but if he can just get on base at a decent clip, he'd be a nice guy to be able to use as our lefty leadoff if we're not gonna throw Trang out there. So um that's my hope for the next couple weeks is he can just get on base. He doesn't need to hit warning track pops like he likes to. Just get
Do you
on.
say do you say Freelick or
Did I say
Durbin?
Freelick? I meant Durbin if I said
No, you
Freelick.
said Durbin, but then you said lefty lead against lefty pitching.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
against
all
lefty
right, I got
pitching.
you,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, yeah. No, I
Sounds
was
good.
thinking about Freelick too, though, in
Yeah.
the 5 hole, but I kind of like it because he's so good at getting that contact where he can, uh, score somebody and maybe start something else off. So I get
Mm-hmm.
him hitting down there. But yeah, it seems like they really don't like Terang against lefties up top. So even since last year, um, yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Looking just back at some of the things that we've talked about in our group chat since
whoa, whoa, whoa.
yeah. Have you mentioned Anthony Siegler?
No, I did
Um,
not mention him. I know last time we talked some other AAA possible left side of infield, but we didn't mention him. You can bring him up, but yeah, he's a prospect that hadn't really shined at a lot of levels, and he's now in AAA and producing almost as well as he has throughout any level. Um, I think he was a catcher, right?
yeah, it says here that he's a catcher second baseman and
Yeah,
I guess testing out third base for Nashville. So
and I think he
would have been
played
nice.
shortstop the other night too, right? Which I don't think he's a shortstop at the
Yeah, it would have
upper
been nice
levels,
if
but.
Terang to short would have worked this spring. I feel like that would have helped a couple things, but
Yeah,
obviously you like having him at second base too, but that could I feel like help a lot because it's a lot easier to ask guys to try out second base or third base than it is to ask them to try out shortstop. So,
yeah. And I will say
uh,
with him playing shortstop the other night in AAA, Freddie Zamora played third base, which again, between one of those two guys, I wouldn't be surprised to see him this year. And if they both can play both those positions, obviously there's a need for that. So, good to see.
cool. Yeah, do you have any other final thoughts?
No, I just know the Chinooks got a home game tonight. I'm really pulling for them. Big one for the Nooks.
Go check out Coach Kean, working for the Chinooks this summer.
Yeah, he's not Coach Keen anymore. Now he's Labor Keen.
I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't have anything else for you. Go
Nothing.
Brewers. Catch me in
Damn.
catch me in the chalet on Friday if you can.
That would be awesome.
Buy
I
me a
hope
diet
someone
beer.
does. I hope someone
Yeah,
does.
actually, someone please do. My wife will think I'm famous. Funny. All
All
right.
right. Go
Go Brewers.
Brewers. Go
Go Brewers.
Brewers. Go
Go Brewers.
Brewers. Go
Go Brewers.
Brewers.